Staying calm does not always signal strength. In many social systems, it signals low resistance. When you remain composed, no matter what happens, the environment around you begins to recalibrate, not around your values, not around your intentions, but around how much pressure you can absorb without pushing back. This is where the contradiction starts. Calm is often interpreted as capacity. Capacity is often interpreted as availability, and availability becomes leverage for others. Most people believe composure earns respect. Psychologically, respect follows something else. It follows limits. The human brain constantly scans for where effort meets resistance. Where it finds none, it moves further. Where it meets a boundary, it slows down. When your emotional regulation never changes, when your tone never tightens, when your posture never shifts, you become predictable. Predictability lowers the perceived cost of pushing you. The system learns that nothing happens when it applies pressure. This is where calm turns into exposure. You might notice it first in small ways. Requests become expectations. Expectations become assumptions. Your time starts to feel pre-booked by other people's needs. Your silence is filled by their decisions. You remain composed, and the other side escalates. Not aggressively, incrementally. A little more demand, a little less consideration, a little more space taken from you. What feels like peace on the inside can be read as permission on the outside. Humans respond to cues, not intentions. You may intend calm as control. The social field often reads it as tolerance. Tolerance sets a threshold. Once that threshold is mapped, behavior adjusts around it. If nothing happens when someone crosses a line, the line quietly moves. Not because people are malicious, but because systems optimize for least resistance. This is a basic pattern in power dynamics. Pressure flows toward open space. There is a subtle signal embedded in constant emotional neutrality. It says, this interaction does not cost you. If something does not cost you, it is easy to ask for more of it. Time, energy. Attention, compliance. The other side does not feel the weight of their actions because you do not show the weight of their actions. The absence of visible impact reduces urgency. Without urgency, there is no reason to stop. This is where many people become confused. They stay calm, and the environment becomes heavier. They restrain, and the demands grow. They listen, and they are interrupted. They wait, and others move ahead. The internal narrative says, I am being reasonable. The external system reads, this position is flexible. There is a difference between calmness and low resistance. Calmness is emotional regulation. Resistance is behavioral signaling. When one exists without the other, the social system compensates. People test where your edges are, not consciously, automatically. Every interaction is a small calibration. Can I speak over this person? Can I delay them? Can I ask again? Can I take more? When nothing changes after a push, the brain stores that result. The next push comes faster. This is why silence can be interpreted as consent. Not because you agree, but because nothing interrupts the pattern. Human behavior follows feedback loops. Push, observe, adjust. If the feedback is neutral, the behavior escalates. If the feedback is firm, it stabilizes. Calm without response is still feedback. It says, this is acceptable. Respect does not grow from how much you absorb. It grows from what you protect. Power asymmetry develops when one side signals that their internal state is stable, regardless of external pressure. The other side begins to move freely within that stability. They feel no friction. Friction is what creates awareness. Without it, actions feel weightless, and weightless actions tend to multiply. This is why people who avoid conflict often experience more of it. Not in the form of loud arguments, but in the form of constant imposition. More tasks, more expectations, more emotional labor. The system learns that this is where it can unload. At a deeper level, humans associate boundaries with status, not aggressive boundaries, clear ones. When a limit appears calmly and consistently, it changes the social map. It introduces cost, not emotional cost, structural cost. If I do this, access changes. If I say this, availability shifts. If I push here, something closes. This is what recalibrates behavior. Controlled composure is different from passive calm. Controlled composure includes visible limits, short responses, pauses that do not invite continuation. statements that end an exchange instead of extending it, access that can be reduced without explanation. You do not need volume to signal resistance. You need consistency. When you withdraw attention calmly, the system notices. When you stop engaging with pressure, the pressure loses its function. Behavior exists to produce a result. If the result disappears, the behavior adapts. This is leverage without emotion. People often think boundaries require confrontation. Psychologically, they require pattern disruption. If every demand leads to discussion, the demand is rewarded. If every push leads to engagement, the push is reinforced. When a push leads to a closed door, a shorter answer, or a delayed response, the brain learns a different equation. This is how you stay calm and still signal authority. Authority is not a tone. It is a structure. It is the shape of what happens when someone interacts with you. If the shape never changes, no matter how they behave, they will shape it for you. Notice the difference between absorbing and responding. Absorbing keeps the system running. Responding changes the system. A response does not have to be emotional. It has to be directional. It has to move the interaction somewhere else. End it. Pause it. Redirect it. The moment people realize they cannot escalate without consequence, behavior stabilizes. Not because they fear you, because the system has been recalibrated. The cost is now visible. This is the quiet form of control. Not through dominance, through structure. You do not need to explain your limits for them to exist. Explanation often invites negotiation. Negotiation invites pressure. Pressure invites testing. When access changes without a speech, the pattern is clearer. This is where composure becomes authority instead of availability. The shift is subtle. You remain calm, but the environment feels different around you. Fewer pushes, slower demands, more consideration, not because you asked for it, because the system learned that this position is no longer open space. Calm is emotional stability. Authority is behavioral clarity. When you combine them, the social field adjusts, not loudly, quietly, reliably. The final distinction is simple. Silence without structure invites advantage. Calm with boundaries creates respect. The difference is not how you feel. It is what changes when someone crosses a line. Stay composed, but let the system feel the edge.